Women to Watch is an intimate look into the lives of prominent and influential women leaders from around the world and the challenges they faced on their journey. It's the real story behind her title. Join us every week to hear more stories about women from around the world and in your own communities at womentowatch.net.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Women to Watch. I'm Sue Rocco. It's so great to be here with you. We're going to shake things up a little bit this week. Joining me in just a moment will be Ric Edelman. Ric is a renowned financial advisor. He is an investor. He is the author of, I believe, a dozen books and spent many, many years on radio. And he's now the host of the Truth About Your Future podcast. And he'll be with me in just a second. You'll also hear from Sherry Marson, our Lifestyle Watch contributor. And Sherry's going to be with Arielle Ashford. Arielle is the founder and owner of a brand new non-alcoholic and vegan restaurant just outside of Philadelphia here in Manayunk. And as always, you'll hear from our military and veterans contributor, Carol Eggert from Comcast NBC Universal, and a beautiful spot from our partner, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So now I'm very honored and excited to welcome to the show, Ric Edelman.
It's great to be with you, Sue. Thank you.
Hi, Ric. Thank you so much for being here. I was thinking when you were watching the Open, what am I doing here?
The thought occurred to me.
I bet. And I'll tell you, I have had several gentlemen on the show over the years. There's always something about them that strikes me, that they understand the value and importance of bringing women into the fold when it comes to just leading the world across all industries and in politics, et cetera. And I believe I read an article, you were talking about equal pay, which is what prompted me to write my note. You're also, as I mentioned before the show, a true rock star in my household. My husband has been listening to you for a very long time. And now my son, the next generation, is as well. So I have a couple notes from them that I'm going to share later in the show. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is if you can just talk a little bit about your upbringing in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
I grew up in a very, wonderful household. Mom and dad ran their own small business. I was the youngest of three, two older brothers. And so being entrepreneurial was just, in our blood because our parents ran their own business. My brother now runs the family business. My other brother is engaged in a variety of entrepreneurial activities in the music and healthcare fields. And so, it was wonderful growing up outside Philly and went to school in South Jersey at back then Glassboro State, now Rowan University. Where I met Jean. She is now on the board of trustees at Rowan, and we're very active at Rowan University philanthropically and in support of the school. And upon graduation, we both came down to the DC area, and we've been in the Washington, DC metro area for 42 years now.
Wow.
So just a great upbringing in South Jersey, and we just loved it.
Yeah. Tell me, Glassboro State College, was that a good fit for you?
It really was. I went into college with the expectation of becoming a school teacher. I was going to be in secondary ed and shifted over to communications and just fell into the fact that Rowan, Glassboro at the time, had one of the top schools in the country for public relations, communications, advertising, marketing, which really served me well. I was involved in politics. I was working interning for Jim Florio back when he was in the House of Representatives, and went to Washington, D.C. to work on his Capitol Hill staff. Didn't like Capitol Hill, but loved the D.C. area, which is why we stayed. And I thought I was going to have a career in politics. Jean and I were both very active politically during our careers at Glassboro State. Jean was the first woman ever elected president of the Student Government Association in the school's history.
Wow.
You need to have her on your show because
Yes.
she is a
Yes.
dynamo in her own right. And she hosts her own podcast as well. And she has written a couple of books herself, including a children's book on money. And so we have always really been focused on financial education, and using my communications background and Jean's degree in consumer economics and nutrition has really enabled us to build what became the largest investment advisory firm in the country.
Well, one of the things I love about your story is that you, as you said, you met Jean in college and you graduated and you were looking for a financial advisor yourself and just couldn't find a good one. And I think some of the most successful people solve a problem for themselves and then go on to find great success. Tell me about that experience.
It certainly wasn't our intention to become financial advisors. As you noted, we were young newlyweds. I was writing as I was a journalist and editor of several publications, and that exposure made me realize, that there is a financial planning environment out there and a variety of financial advisors. And so we realized, being young newlyweds, we wanted to buy a house like everybody else. And we went to a financial advisor for assistance to give us advice on how to go do that. And he ended up telling us to commit a felony. He told us to lie on our mortgage application.
Wow.
Which was just astonishing to us. We were infuriated, and we realized, if this guy can make this kind of a living giving that kind of advice, how much money might you be able to earn if you give advice that actually helps people? Yeah. And that was the impetus. We said, you know what, we're going to teach ourselves how to do this, and then we're going to teach others what we've learned. And so Jean quit her job and went to work for Payne Weber in their back office to learn the back end of Wall Street. I got securities licensed and figured out how to give advice to consumers. And we launched our practice back in 1986. And we wanted to help people who didn't have access to financial advisors. Rich people have plenty of access. And the advisors and lawyers and accountants they go to are all designed to help them stay wealthy. We wanted to help people who weren't wealthy and who wanted to achieve financial security. And we were young and didn't have any money ourselves. And we realized there are other people who are young and don't have any money. And so we began by doing college planning seminars to elementary school PTA groups, teaching parents of kids who are 6 and 8 and 10 years old how to save for college. And this is back in the 80s, and nobody knew the need for saving for 10 or 20 years for college. And so it was a long, slow progress, but word got around that we knew what we were talking about, that we were focused on helping people who didn't otherwise have access to advice. And that's how we built our business.
And you know what, Ric, I would add, you've done everything with great integrity. So there was that trust that people would trust you, because as you said, there's people out there doing things not in the right way. So if you can find someone that you trust, those lessons, you're going to follow them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to have 3 things. One is competency. And I think everybody who hires anybody, whether you're walking into an Italian restaurant or taking your car in for a new tire or going to see a dentist, we assume competency. We assume that the people we're hiring know what they're doing and have the ability to do a good job. So the first is competency. The second is service. Just because you're a good dentist doesn't do the patient any good if the dentist never returns phone calls. Mm-hmm. So we rely on service at the end of the day, of responsiveness to our needs. And not everybody who's competent is good at delivering in service. And then the third element, as you've just said, Sue, is the honesty and trustworthiness of the operation. Are you dealing fairly with the individual? And we found that all too often, businesses don't do that. When you look at the hierarchy, this is all too true in the financial services industry, where I've become quite a bit of an expert, that Wall Street has a 3-step hierarchy. First are the shareholders. Second are the staff, the brokers in the office. And third, dead last, are the clients. Mm. And this is why you see so many instances of horrific advice being given to clients, expensive investments, underperforming investments, highly risky investments, sometimes outright fraud. It's because the client is all too often considered to be the least important in this conversation. The broker's trying to make a commission. The firm is trying to make a profit for the shareholders. And the client, at the end of the day, is too often an afterthought. So we built our practice way back when. Gina and I were really very simple about it. We wanted to create a business that was the kind of a business that we would want to go to if we were a consumer. We obviously didn't find it from that crook of an advisor we went to. So we wanted a safe horizon. We wanted a safe oasis, a place that we would be protected against these abusive sales practices that are all too common in business today. And we see this example not just on Wall Street, we see it everywhere. Just most recently with Southwest Airlines during the holidays that canceled 10,000 flights, far more than anybody else, because of their inability to operate honestly. They weren't being forthcoming with their customers about the problems they were having, and people were left stranded for days in the middle of the holiday season, far more than any
no apology. There was almost like no acknowledgement of, we goofed. Which,
exactly right. And so one of the things we learned very early is to say, I'm sorry if we make a mistake. The good news about our business in the world of personal finance, there's no mistake we can't fix because it's just money. It's not like medicine where a doctor can kill you on the table.
Yes.
For us, it's just money, and I can fix any problem. And so our adage to our clients and to our staff was very simple. We can't fix a problem that we don't know about. So the only challenge we gave our staff and our clients was to tell us. And we had an adage that bad news travels fast. We want to know really quickly if there's a problem, if there's something's going wrong, because the sooner we know about it, the more easily we can fix it. The faster we can fix it, the more painlessly. And so we just always wanted to be treated by others in a certain way. And we built our practice to treat people that way. And that's how we built a firm that was named the #1 advisory firm in the country by Consumer Reports. It was named the #1 firm in the nation by Barron's and by Forbes. We were named the best place to work multiple times by the Washington Post and several industry trade publications. So we built a fun practice, and it was really, we had a great time for 37 years.
Yeah, I want to do a little bragging on my husband for a minute, because you mentioned a dentist. My husband has a dental practice.
Oh.
It was started in 1952.
Wow.
By his dad. And he is practicing today. He has a woman who just retired who was with him for 54 years.
Oh, my.
And his staff currently has been there between 25 and 40 years. And I think, you told a story the other day about an experience you had, which was remarkable to my husband and I, because of the fact that, again, a mistake on their part, no apology, no care, that it was disservice to you. And it's remarkable to me. And I think we're seeing a lot of that today. My husband has been incredibly successful for all of the things you just laid out. And being conscientious and caring most about the patients will lead to success. He's never had to market or advertise. It's word of mouth continually.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about yourself. Take care of others and you'll be taken care of. It's really that simple. And
it is.
And you cited a couple of statistics that are really worth noting, because we had a similar situation. In our career of 37 years, never in our career did a financial advisor ever leave to go to another firm. We had a few retire, a couple sadly passed away, but nobody ever left to go somewhere else. Our turnover rate in our practice was under 5% per year in an industry where it is typically about 30% per year. Mm-hmm. And we had people like you described in your husband's practice who were with us 20, 30 years. And that is a very good bellwether when you're looking for any advisory firm, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, your butcher, your landscaper. How long have they been in business, and how long have their staff been with them? Because if there's high turnover in the firm, it means these people are unhappy. It means they are themselves not being treated well by their employer. And that says something. So when you have an organization where the employees have as much longevity as the owner of the business, that speaks volumes about the quality, care, and conduct of that organization. So kudos to your husband and his staff.
Thank you. Thank you. Rick, I want to show you a book I have sitting here.
That's our children's book that Jean and I wrote, the
Right.
Squirrel Manifesto.
And I'm going to tell you, I said to my husband, I want to talk to Rick about the importance of teaching children about money. And I've been saying that for a very, very long time, personally, because I did not have any kind of education or exposure to the importance of saving and investing and money just in general. And I think if we start with children, rather than just teaching math, it will have a huge impact on generations to follow. Why do you think the education system doesn't see the value in that?
Well, I can tell you very clearly why. It's a sad story all the way around. I've been heavily involved in financial literacy movement for my entire career. I've been involved with the Jumpstart Coalition on Personal Financial Literacy, the National Endowment for Financial Education, the Institute for Financial Literacy, the American Savings Education Council, the Employee Benefit Research Institute, a great many groups working really hard. I, in fact, founded the Funding Our Future Coalition, which is the largest coalition of all of these groups ever put together, more than 80 of these groups, all focusing on retirement security legislation on Capitol Hill. So I've been heavily involved in this movement for decades. And I'll tell you the sad reality. When you go to these meetings, you'll find them attended by representatives from academia, from every branch of government. You'll see the Department of Education, of course, will be there. So will the Department of Commerce, Department of, even the Defense Department will be there, the IRS, Social Security Administration, the White House, members of Congress and their staffs from a variety of committees, the Senate Banking Committee, the House Financial Services Committee, all the usual suspects. You'll see major corporations there. Some of the biggest banks and brokerage firms, credit card companies, insurance companies will all be represented. They're often funding these operations philanthropically. You know who's not in the room? The educators.
Teachers.
The teachers, the National Education Association, the teachers lobby. Nobody from the education community is in the room. And that used to befuddle me, because if the teachers are not in the room, then we're not going to be able to get this stuff taught in schools. Why are the teachers not engaged? And the answer is very discouraging, and it's not the teacher's fault. What the teachers argue, because I've had conversations with officials in the education movement about this, the teachers are overwhelmed with unfunded mandates. They have so many obligations of subjects they are required to teach, but for which they have no funding, federal or state, to deliver that education. So many challenges where they're eliminating physical education and music classes because of a lack of funding. And teachers themselves can only teach what they themselves know. And if they themselves don't have any knowledge of personal finance, how can they teach the subject? So they aren't involved because they're overwhelmed, and we are underserving our educators. We're not giving them the tools, the funding, the resources they need to be able to be participants in this topic. It's really very sad. Even today, less than half of the states have any requirement that a student take a personal finance class anywhere K through 12. Less than half the states require it. And even in many of the states that do have a requirement, it's an optional class and there's no test required. So we clearly are not doing what we need to do, because, as you pointed out, Sue, you grew up not knowing much about money. That's true of everybody in America. Our parents don't talk to us about money. Money is the last taboo topic at the dinner table. Your parents will talk to you these days about sex, drugs, politics, religion, but they won't talk money. You don't know how much money your parents earn. You don't know what a tax return is. You've never heard of FICA. You get into college and you never have any classes on money, K through 12 or in college. Then you get into the workforce and your employer doesn't talk to you about money other than handing you a 401k piece of paper telling you, here's a bunch of investments, pick. No guidance or education.
How about in an interview, a job interview, the salary isn't mentioned till the last round, which could be round 8.
Right.
You're not supposed to ask.
Naturally, we are financially illiterate because we have had no training, and yet we are faced with financial decisions on a daily basis. And we're out of our league because the people we're talking to about money do have the training. That car salesman is a far better condition to pitch you a car than you're able to negotiate the price of the car.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with every financial decision, credit cards, bank accounts, insurance policies, investments, mortgages, wills and trusts, we have no knowledge about any of this, and we're expected to make effective decisions. And as a result, most Americans are failing financially because we have a lack of knowledge in this area.
Yeah.
This is the fight I've been
I hope
fighting
that
for
you're
decades.
able to make some progress there, Rick.
Well, I'm fearful that we're not making a lot of progress. When you look at the survey data, the level of financial illiteracy is largely unchanged over the past 4 decades. We are as uneducated about the subject as ever, and we don't see any major improvements happening anytime soon. There are some improvements that we've been able to make policy-wise. For example, you're automatically enrolled in a 401k when you join a job now. That didn't used to happen. So we're creating some forced savings, and that's helpful. We have improvements legislatively about job layoff and about incomes. We're, for example, in New York City and many states across the country, you're no longer, as an employer, allowed to ask a job applicant, how much money are you earning currently? We're not allowed to, because that's an unfair grounding. Employers will say, oh, well, if you're only earning X, then I'm going to give you a very little bit, even though the job is worth a lot more. And this is a big problem why women are underpaid in the workplace.
Yeah,
because
which I want to get to that, Rick. We have to take a quick break. And maybe when we come back, we can start with that. Equal
Sounds
pay
great.
for women. I'll be right back with Ric Edelman, National Personal Financial Thought Leader. We'll be right back.
We are CHOP, and we can't wait to show you around. We're the nation's first children's hospital. Now, a care network with more than 50 locations that continues to expand. 3 state-of-the-art research buildings with 1.5 million square feet of space. We have grown from 12 beds 165 years ago to nearly 600 beds and one of the best children's hospitals in the world. We have a level 1 trauma center, 11 floors of patient units, more than 20 operating rooms, first of its kind delivery unit for babies with birth defects, a separate cardiac operative and catheterization suite, and places to learn, like our internationally recognized simulation center. We have trained generations of leaders in the field of pediatrics. We are world leaders in medicine, surgery, and science. One of the top recipients in NIH funding for pediatric research. In this building, pioneers in CAR T therapy, mitochondrial disease, brain tumors, hyperinsulinism, and other rare diseases. Here, groundbreaking work in fetal surgery, genetics and genomics, and neurology. In our newest building, leaders in social determinants of health, clinical informatics and epidemiology, autism, trauma and injury prevention. Our patients come from every state and 115 countries. Meeting these challenges requires the best and the brightest. We are passionate about pediatrics. We are motivated to make a difference in the world and in our community. We are a team. We are CHOP.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm joined this week by Ric Edelman. And just before the break, we spoke about equal pay for women. And of course, I want to ask you about that. I guess my question for you is what can you tell me about companies and how they've been able to not pay women the same for the same work? And
How,
why is it even still a thing today?
I'm astonished. I'm flabbergasted. I don't understand how it exists. I don't understand how it's allowed to exist. Why this isn't illegal is beyond me. I don't get it. In our enlightened age, in an age of full disclosure, in the internet environment where everybody knows everything instantly, I am astonished that still today, in virtually every industry, women are underpaid as much as 50% compared to what men earn for the same occupation. There was a huge study done very recently of thousands of occupations at tens of thousands of universities, and they tracked women who graduated 5 years ago with a given degree against men at the same college, the same degree, graduating in the same year, and in almost every field, men earning 20 to 50% more than women. I don't understand. Forget about even the legality, the fundamental ethics of this. How does an employer justify the behavior of saying to a job candidate, I'm going to pay you remarkably less, materially less, merely because of your gender? I'm flabbergasted.
Are not enough people speaking loudly about it? I mean, I know, I see and hear women that have been, with major Fortune 500s, and they've brought it to the attention, of the company itself, and there just doesn't seem to be any real permanent solutions for
Well,
it.
unfortunately, ethics don't play a role. It's all about numbers, and the employer, being a Fortune 500 publicly traded company, remember their allegiance is to their shareholder. That's number
Correct.
one.
Yes.
Staff's number two, and
Yes.
they want to lower their expenses as much as possible wherever possible. And if they can get away with it, they will. And
Mm.
so I think that we have a scenario, and I'll say it stereotypically, whether it has legitimacy or not, there's an assumption that it does, that women are more tolerant of being abused in this way, and they aren't vocal about their own their own worth and their own
Mhm.
value in the marketplace. They're more tolerant. I'm not sure if any of that is true. Perhaps it's simply that they don't know that they're being underpaid, because we don't talk about incomes very much in this country. Many employers prohibit conversation of compensation within the workplace. And if you do talk about your comp, you get fired because
Yeah.
they recognize it's an area of control.
Mm.
So, how did women eventually get the right to own property? How did they eventually get the right to vote? They
Mhm.
organized, and they went on strike, and they paraded down the streets of cities and in capitals to demand the rights that they now have today. And this fundamental, what appears to be the last right, equal pay, I think we're going to need to have another revolt by women, with enough men joining them to
Mhm.
change the laws and regulations of this country and the unethical behavior by far too many employers.
We might have to do that. I'll talk to you about that after the show. We'll talk about a
I'll wave the
revolt.
banner with you.
Okay. Something else I wanted to talk to you about, because it's a very it's a cause near and dear to my heart. I know you've been very, very generous with your donations to the Alzheimer's research. I actually lost my mom to Alzheimer's,
Mm.
her two sisters,
Oh
and
my.
my grandfather.
Oh my.
So it's at the forefront of my mind always.
Oh.
And I guess my question for you is first, why Alzheimer's is something that you felt you wanted to um, be a part of, perhaps a cure.
I'm so sorry of your family history there. Lost my mom to Alzheimer's during COVID as well. But that was our first family incident. Um, we've been involved in the Alzheimer's fight for many, many years because of our experience in our financial planning practice. We've seen so many instances where our clients suffered Alzheimer's, or their spouses, or family members, their parents, very commonly suffering Alzheimer's. And so we began to look into this, because what we discovered is that Alzheimer's is the most expensive disease to treat. Um,
I
the
didn't know that.
and I'll explain why. The likelihood of developing Alzheimer's by age 60 is 1 in 10. There are some who develop early onset in their 40s. That's very rare. But by age 60, it's 1 in 10. By age 80, it's 1 in 3. By age 90, it's 1 in 2.
Wow.
My mom got it at 93. And currently, we're advancing every other aspect of medicine in such a way that if you're alive in the year 2030, follow this, so if you're alive in the year 2030, odds are good you'll live to age 100, because we are curing over the next decade or two virtually all our other major causes of death: pulmonary disease, respiratory illness, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, cancer itself. We haven't made any progress on Alzheimer's. In the 30-year fight, $40 billion has been spent. We have today no diagnostic tool. The only way we can tell that you've got Alzheimer's is by an autopsy, which is a lousy way to find out you have something. There is no treatment. There is no cure. There's no vaccine. It's 100% fatal. The average length of the disease from onset of symptoms to death is 12 years. And these patients typically are ambulatory. They have no physical ailment other than their mental disruption, which means they can walk around a house, they can turn on a stove, they can drive a car, they can pick up a firearm. Makes them very dangerous to themselves and others. And this is why the care is so expensive. They need 24/7 care for a decade or more. And we have seen so much financial devastation among our clients. Forget about the emotional toll, the horror of the patient of losing themselves and their family loved ones who watch this degeneration. It's horrible from a human perspective, an emotional and a medical perspective, but it is equally horrific from a financial perspective, because the cost of this care can easily be $10,000 to $15,000 per month, which is not covered by health insurance, nor is it covered by Medicare. And this is why we see so many American families financially destroyed. Most of the care is being provided by family members on an unpaid basis. We see family members retiring sooner than they otherwise would have, turning down promotions, going to part-time work, dipping into their own savings to help provide care for their parents. I'm sure you've had this experience with your own mom. And this is just devastating. And it's a global problem because Alzheimer's does not discriminate geographically or based on race or based on occupation or education or affluency levels. There are 6 million Americans already having Alzheimer's. It's projected that number is going to grow to 50 million over the next 3 decades.
Oh my gosh.
And it's going to bankrupt. It's going to bankrupt Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and by extension, the American economy. We've got to defeat this, and that's why we've been involved in this fight, finding a cure, finding treatment, finding service for caregivers along the way.
And there was some good news this week about a drug that's been
We
approved.
do, yes, for the first
which will cost a fortune, but
yeah, we have Incyte and Biogen have had an FDA approval of a new drug that reduces the rate of decline among those who have early symptoms of the disease. The problem is that the drug is $26,500 a year. It's $2,200 a month. The average Social Security check is $1,700. So this drug costs more than the average retiree gets in Social Security. And Medicare, as a result, has refused to cover the drug. And as a result of that, it's out of reach of almost everybody who needs it. So the fact that the drug is out there is great. The problem is nobody has access to it because it is so expensive.
Do you see that changing as often is the case when a drug first comes out? No one can afford it. And then years down the road, no?
Not initially, because the cost of this drug is so expensive to produce. It's not expected that it's going to get cheap anytime soon. And Medicare is acknowledging they can't afford to give it to 6 million people because it'll bankrupt Medicare. They would be spending more money to pay for that one drug than they pay for every other drug for every retiree in America. They simply can't afford it, not under its current funding levels. And so it's a big dilemma for Congress. This is why we need treatments, cures, and vaccines that are far more economical. So we're glad to see the drug out there, but quite frankly, it's only going to serve the rich.
Yeah. Okay, I want to shift gears. My son submitted a question for you. I thought it was a very thoughtful question for my 28-year-old son, who is actually with a startup company that's in the healthcare arena, trying to help the middle market with insurance and high bills, I'll say. He said, in my lifetime, I've seen only two major economic bubbles, the dot-com in 2000 and housing in 2008. What do you think could be next? With medical bills being the number one cause of bankruptcy and student loans a constant issue and debate, could either of these be the next to burst?
Well, we never know when or what or why until they happen. And it's usually with Monday morning quarterbacking, we look backward and decide what happened and why didn't we see it coming. We did have the dot-com bubble in 2000, as your son noted. That, however, followed the 1990s with the incredible increase of those technology stocks. So you can't have a bubble burst until you have a bubble in the first place. And then 2008 wasn't just a housing bubble, it was all of Wall Street. We saw the stock market fall to incredible depths, as well as the bond market and the housing market. It was a triple whammy. It took 5 years for the stock market to recover to its all-time high from the 2007 high. And then we had another, your son has omitted, the pandemic that we went through. The stock market fell 35%. And that situation has led to the current situation where in 2022, we had the worst year ever for the bond market. And when I say ever, I mean since the invention of the bond market in 1792,
Wow.
The bond market had the worst year ever in 2022. The stock market fell just as much, and housing prices began to drop as well. We will see more collapse of housing prices in 2023. We have a lot of headwinds. The student loan crisis is a major problem. The overall federal deficit is a huge issue, along with the federal debt. Rising interest rates will mean the government is going to spend more money than ever in the debt service on the federal debt. And now we have a Congress in the House where they are adamant with the November election that they are not going to increase the government spending because they want to get the debt under control. And that is going to put more pressure on Congress and the White House to be able to pay the bills that we have for all of the challenges that we're facing in the world today.
Wow.
So there are a lot of issues that we are facing, a lot of headwinds. Many are expecting a recession here in the first half of 2023, which will put more pressure on salaries, on jobs, on housing prices, while we're spending more and more than ever on food, energy, education, and medicine. So it's a bit of a challenge. But when will there be a huge blow up? I could argue with your son that we had it last year. And economically or investment wise, for the stock market, the bond market, the crypto market, the worst may be behind us.
Okay, well, that's good news. After, we look at a bleak picture. We only have a minute left, Ric, and I just wanted to leave you with one last question. Tell me what you are most grateful for because of the success you have had, and for your ability to do what you can.
Well, I would say it's my parents, my wife, my education at Rowan University, and being incredibly lucky that I was born in the United States of America, which is the greatest country in the world and provides still truly the land of opportunity. And had I not been born to this wonderful family and met this wonderful wife and being in this wonderful country, I would not have the success that I have today. And so clearly, I'm an extraordinarily lucky individual.
That's awesome. That's a great way to end the show. I thank you so much. And I appreciate, the wonderful partnership that you have with Jean. And that's just a fine example, when we talk about women's equality and success, I think you're both showing that in such a great way with the partnership. That's not just husband and wife. So kudos to you. And please send her my regards. Hope she's feeling better.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's been a pleasure.
Stay with us as we go into our break. When we come back, you'll hear from Sherry Morrison. She's going to be with Arielle Ashford, the founder of a brand new vegan and non-alcoholic bar in Philadelphia. We'll be right back.
Action News, celebrating 50 years with AccuWeather.
If you think severe weather has been on the rise, you are correct. In the last 3 years, tornado warnings in our region have shattered records, with 52 last year alone. Half of those warnings resulted in confirmed tornadoes, including 2 extremely rare EF3s. Thanks for always trusting us to keep you informed.
50 Years of AccuWeather is sponsored by Independence Blue Cross. Choose coverage you can count on with the region's strongest network.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch Action News live.
And the big story on Action News.
Plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on, always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hello, welcome to the lifestyle segment of Women to Watch. I'm Sherry Morrison. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Arielle Ashford, entrepreneur and co-founder of quite a few businesses. Welcome to the show, Arielle.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Arielle, please tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to get into all of your businesses, but first tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and your education.
So my name is Arielle Ashford. I'm originally from Provo, Utah. My husband and I moved here about 7 years ago, maybe 8 now. And I studied social work at the University of Utah, who just lost to Penn State in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, we are. A little conflicted probably, since you're a little PA and a little Utah.
Yeah, it was a meeting of worlds. So it was an interesting space to be in.
I bet. Arielle and her husband, Robert, put the unity in community. You and your husband have a lot of energy and drive. How did you meet?
Oh, so this is a good story. We actually met in 2015 when I was speaking at the White House. I was a speaker for the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. They were doing a joint meeting with the Office of National Drug Control Policy. And long story short, I was working on a grant in Salt Lake, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration liked the work I was doing. And so I was in grad school at the time, and I got a call from the White House asking me for my bio. So I asked my teacher if I could be excused, and she said yes. Anyway, I ended up at the White House in 2015, and my husband was in the audience when I was speaking. And yeah, that's how we met, and we're just kind of together ever since.
Well, that's a fun story. So you moved from Utah to San Diego and then to Philadelphia. What brought you to Philadelphia?
Well, he did. He got into UPenn for his master's degree in social work. And even though I was living in San Diego at the time, you can't really say no to UPenn. So we moved here to Philadelphia and stayed.
Wow, what a change.
Yeah, just a little
From
bit.
both Utah and San Diego. Wow, Philadelphia and down by Penn. Yikes. You are a city slicker.
Yes.
I did put a little list together. I think it's best to read so it's accurate. This is a timeline of businesses Arielle and Robert started since 2019. Their first was the Unity Recovery opening in 2019, and that was founded to be an inclusive recovery community organization and community center for everyone. They offer non-clinical, peer-based recovery support services in the community to support individuals and family members on their paths to recovery. And then next, in 2019, pretty much the same time from what Arielle said, the Unity Yoga, also in Manayunk, opened, and that is sharing the Unity Recovery building with separate entrances to support its services and offer a few more. And then the second location for Unity Yoga opened in Chestnut Hill in 2020. And then Unity Taqueria opened next on Ridge Avenue in Roxborough. That was in 2020. And most recently, in March, Volstead of Unity, a zero-proof bar and 100% vegan restaurant, opened on Main Street in Manayunk. Coming this spring, Unity Java on Ridge Avenue in Roxborough. Woo! Wow, what a list. Do you ever sleep? Tell us. Okay, that's good. Tell us a little bit about your business ventures. After your husband finished grad school, you opened the first of the businesses, Unity Recovery and Unity Yoga. What's the story behind Unity Recovery?
Sure. So this concept was something that I was chewing on when I lived in San Diego. My husband and I are both in recovery. I will have 14 years at the end of this month, and he's coming up on 10 years.
Wow.
So we're both embedded in the national recovery community, and we had a pretty good lay of the land of what services were available and what services were not available. And at the time when we opened in 2019, there was not a formal relationship between recovery and yoga. You might find people in recovery in yoga classes, and you might find yoga in treatment centers, but nothing that was for maybe more of a little seasoned yogi who was in recovery, who was looking for a place that they could call their own. So the concept, actually, I presented it to Robert when we were walking our doggy in West Philly about putting a recovery community organization and a yoga studio officially together. There's been partnerships with CrossFit and recovery, so why not yoga for those of us who are not maybe into CrossFit? So this idea was really birthed in West Philadelphia, and we began looking for spaces, which needed to be, we were looking for something fairly particular and in a, fun part of town. We wanted to be local and in a central location, not off the beaten path. It's also very rare to find anything that's recovery related on Main Street in a major city. So this was Manayunk, Main Street in Manayunk was a huge pull and draw for us. Mm-hmm. So we opened Unity Yoga and Unity Recovery in 2019. And at first they were co-located in the same building. The yoga studio was on the second floor and the community center on the third floor. And then during the pandemic, the community center, there was so much need, and it was so great that they actually relocated in 2021 to just down the street. We still cooperate and use them quite frequently as the yoga studio. And they have a beautiful 4,000 square foot location. It's where our recovery yoga classes are held. Folks can drop in at any point in time, receive services. It's all for free. It's not... there's no fee for service. It's not insurance. It's 100% free. We're all grant and donation funded.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and you're right. It is very unusual to see anything that has to do with recovery on the main street or in the mainstream of what's going on in a city. It's usually down in a church basement or hidden away. I've attended quite a few AA meetings, and they're they're not usually in nice locations where you're going to see a bunch of people and bump into them. They're kind of secretive.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, you opened Unity Taqueria in Roxborough. There must be a story about that, because I don't think that sounds like you're into yoga and social work, not so much tacos.
Well, my husband being from Texas and myself being from Utah and then living in San Diego, we're very accustomed to some really great Mexican food. And my husband's a great cook who is also, grew up on Tex-Mex. So when we were we live in Roxborough now, and sampled the local taco shops, we just were looking for something a little different. And so I jokingly said to my husband, hey, we should open a taco shop. And through the pandemic, he said to me once, hey, I'm going to look at places for the taco shop. And I was like, oh, okay. He makes great enchiladas. I highly recommend stopping by the taco shop if you're looking for a bold flavor that's maybe has a little different spin.
I definitely will. That's so funny. And then most recently, you opened Volstead by Unity, a zero-proof bar and 100% vegan restaurant. What was the idea behind this concept?
So this is our biggest venture to date so far. We're very excited about it, and it's bringing back some old stories for my husband. He wanted to open a bar when he was not sober, called the Volstead, which was the act that brought about prohibition. So it's a little bit of a punny name. And now being in recovery and not drinking anymore, we wanted to create a space where, once again, folks either in recovery, pregnant or nursing moms, folks that might have a religious background that maybe don't drink, or people that just don't drink or are drinking less, or we have dry January going on right now and sober October. And how can we create a space that's for these people? That's not that there's anything wrong with going to a bar. If that's your thing, that's awesome. There are people who are looking for something a little different. And why can't we be the ones to create those spaces where folks can come and have a great meal that's nutritious, it's nourishing, it's good for the planet, it's good for your body, and have a zero-proof drink, which is also good for your body as well.
Yeah. And your aim is to have 80% of your staff be individuals in recovery from substance abuse, have mental health issues, or re-enter the workforce after being incarcerated.
Yes, that is our hiring guidelines, our hiring principles. Anybody who's in recovery, returning from incarceration. We love these people so dearly. They're some of our best friends. And we want to support them in their life and whatever that looks like. And we hope that they grow out of us. We hope that they grow out and find that job of their dreams. And how can we support them along this journey? It's truly amazing. We have the best team between the yoga studio, the taco shop, the Volstead, the community center. They're so passionate about their work and supporting this our crazy dreams and our crazy ideas. And we wouldn't be anything without our team.
I think it's fantastic, and I think it's good to always think outside of the box. Everybody can do the norm. Dry January has been happening for the last couple of years. I feel like drinking alcohol is becoming more than just not drinking alcohol. It's becoming more than just a trend. And I hear more people talking about not drinking, more people being in the public eye discussing it and giving it up for many different reasons, not because they're alcoholics, but because of their health, because of finances. I mean, there are just so many reasons. And it is a healthier lifestyle. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a much healthier lifestyle. And now you see mocktails, it's in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So it must be something that's like developing. And I think it's nice that people have options without being looked down on. I think it's strange if I go to a party and I don't want to have a drink. People are like, oh, you're not drinking? What's the matter with you? Like, it's a problem. So, yeah, I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing with the community, your Unity and community. Really, really great. We're running out of time. I'm sorry. It always flies by. I'm very excited for you and Robert. And I think that what you're doing is inspiring. You're creating a lot of opportunities in a lifestyle and community that people wouldn't have the nerve to do, and doing an excellent job with fantastic results. So thank you for all you do. And thank you for taking the time to join us here today.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure being here.
My pleasure. I'm going to check back in. I'm going to be reporting on what's going on there. And I think you do private events at
Yeah, we do. And anybody looking for a baby shower or wedding shower or recovery birthday, come on down to the Volstead. We'd love to host you.
Excellent. I will. For more information about Arielle and the Unity businesses, the Unity Recovery, Unity Yoga, Unity Takare, Volstead by Unity, and Unity Java coming soon, go to www.volsteadzeroproof.com or www.unityrecovery.org or www.unityyoga.guru. Thank you again for joining us. Sue will be right back to close out the show. Ladies, keep living your dreams.
Action News, celebrating 50 years with AccuWeather.
If you think severe weather has been on the rise, you are correct. In the last 3 years, tornado warnings in our region have shattered records, with 52 last year alone. Half of those warnings resulted in confirmed tornadoes, including 2 extremely rare EF3s. Thanks for always trusting us to keep you informed.
50 Years of AccuWeather is sponsored by Independence Blue Cross. Choose coverage you can count on with the region's strongest network.
Whether you're just getting started, already well on your way, planning for your future, drafting your vision, growing toward greatness, or finding that dreams really can come true. Whatever your next steps are, we'll be right here with you, just like we have been for 150 years. Start here, grow here, stay here. Penn Community Bank. Here we grow.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Do you stream on a Roku, a Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app. Watch Action News live.
And the big story on Action News.
Plus special programming, breaking news, and severe weather updates.
Tremendous amounts of rain.
Always on, always the news team you trust. Watch 6ABC 24/7 on your streaming device. Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
For another week of Women to Watch. Thanks so much for being with me. Tune in next week. I'll be interviewing Jin Lee, health advisor for Astellas Pharmaceuticals. Thank you so much to Kateri, our producer, and our watch team for all their contributions. Have a great week, everyone.
Now the Women to Watch, Military Watch.
Hi, I'm Carol Eggert, Senior Vice President of Military Affairs at Comcast NBC Universal. In the military, we have something called an After Action Review, or AAR for short. It's a simple but effective model to measure performance. After completing a mission, the soldiers and I would gather to answer 5 questions before we conducted our next mission. What was planned to happen? What actually happened? What worked well, what didn't work well, and how can we improve for the next mission? For me, the week between Christmas and New Year's Day is as much about looking backward as it is envisioning the future. So every year I use this quiet time to conduct a personal AAR. These Carol reviews offer perspective and take a new lens to look at where I, my family, and my teams are now and where we can go in the future. The hope is that the information gleaned will shape how we go about our business and our lives in the year to come. Now, every service knows the most thorough, well-thought-out plan goes out the window once a mission starts. This isn't to say that the time spent planning was worthless, far from it. But like any New Year's resolution or quarterly business strategy, things change. But going through the planning helps us adjust to unforeseen dynamics. So long as we're okay, the path taking a few turns on the journey will be okay. From all of us here at Comcast NBC Universal, We wish you a happy new year and a wonderful start to your 2023.
Winter weather is in the forecast, and you can trust Action News to keep you informed. No hype, just help. Cecily Tynan, Adam Joseph, and the AccuWeather team. Philadelphia's most trusted source for winter weather forecasting. Only on Action News.